And when you start creating websites using Bricks Builder, you're quickly going to realize you're going to have to create templates for various different parts of your site. These could be full pages, they could be sections like headers and footers. There's all manner of different reasons. Then you're going to have to look at conditions on where and when to show them. Well, that's exactly what I'm going to show you in this video. First of all, let me give you an example of a couple of different templates so you can see what I'm talking about. So we take a look at this blog website that I've created with Bricks Builder. First of all, we've got our heading section. This is a template. This is going to be used in this example on every page of our site. The same thing goes if we go to the bottom, you'll see we've got the footer, which again is going to be on every single page. Then we've got this get notified block, which is a section that we can set up as a template and use where and when we want to. This could be inside a static page. It could be inside another template. There's all manner of different reasons to use it. Now, the home page itself is a custom page. This is not using a template. However, if we go and take a look at, for example, one of our posts, you'll see this now uses a template. This is set up to show the category. It shows us the date, the title. In this example, we're using a video as the sort of hero section, and then we've got content underneath it. You'll also notice we've got things like previous and next post and so on. However, if we come back out of this and choose a different post, you'll see this is using almost the same template. This is where I want to show you how you can use conditions to be able to customize which template is used in specific use cases. I've got a dedicated video on that which you can check out here if you want to just find out how to do that. But you'll notice this follows the same fundamental principle, the section, the date, the title, but this time we don't have a video. We have a static image at the top, and then we still have the same information underneath. Now, if we go and take a look at landscapes, for example, this is now using another template. This is an archive template which shows, in this example, a specific category. Landscapes, or could be sunsets, could be anything. But these are templates, and then the information contained inside them is built out using the conditions that we set up. Hope that makes sense. But now we've seen what I'm talking about, let's take a look at how we can get started working with templates and conditions inside Bricks Builder. Okay, so there's a number of ways in which you can work with templates. If we come over to the Bricks menu itself, you see inside there we've got templates, and we can open this up and see all the templates that we have created. We've got titles, the type of template, the condition that's being used to display that template, a thumbnail and shortcodes and so on. So now we've seen how they're organized. Let's go and create our first template and see how we set things up, apply conditions and those kinds of things. So if we come up to the top, we can choose Add New. This allows us to give this a title. Let's call it something like sample template. Then you'll see we've got template type over on the right hand side. There are various different types of templates that we can create with Bricks. If we open this up, you can see you've got standard things like your header and your footer. They're pretty logical and understandable. Your single is like we saw when you look at an individual post. That is a single template. So it's used for single template for single posts, single pages and so on. A section is like that little sign up section we saw. That's a part of a page. A pop-up, as his name would suggest, is a pop-up if you want to use pop-ups as part of Bricks. Archive, like we saw when you look at things like landscapes, sunsets and so on, that's an archive. Your search results is if you are searching on a website, this will give you a kind of results. Imagine a normal results page. You can customize that completely. And you've also got error pages if you want to create like a 404 error page and so on. Lots of different use cases, but the process is fundamentally the same. In this example, we're going to say this is going to be an archive. We'll choose archive from our list and we'll click on either save draft or publish. In this case, it doesn't really matter too much. Before we do though, you see we've got things like template tags, template bundles and folders. Now, if you don't have Happy Files installed, which is a plugin by the same team as behind Bricks Builder, you won't see the folder option at the bottom. So for now, I'm going to leave that out completely. We'll just look at the template tags and the bundles. Now, as its name suggests, tags allow you to tag a template or templates to kind of group them together. So you may have things like your archives, you want to pull those together. You may have things like for custom post types, you want to organize them via that. It's up to you how you organize things. And then the bundle, as his name was kind of suggest, if you want to bundle templates together. So let's say you create a template for like a home page, an about page, an archive page, a single post page, maybe WooCommerce templates and so on. You could bundle those up and it'll be one complete design with all the individual template pieces. These are effectively there just to organize your content. If you're doing this for yourself on a single project, it's probably not worth worrying too much about. But if you wanted to make these publicly available, which you can do inside Bricks itself, we take a look at the settings a little later. You could then create a bundle and make that publicly available and share it with other people, or just share it with other sort of people inside your company or across projects that you are working on. Okay, so we'll leave those as they are. We won't worry too much about template tags and so on. So we'll say we'll publish this. Now let's open up Bricks. And now you get basically the exact same editing experience that you would with any other kind of page with Bricks. But you will notice one other thing. Because we're creating an archive, there are common elements that make up a typical archive, like the archive title and things like that. Well, you can access various different options on the left-hand side. So if you're creating an archive and you want to create a post listing, for example, so you create custom cards and things for each of your individual post items, then you're going to have things like your post title, your excerpt, your metadata, social sharing, things like that. You can use these and pull these in to make your design quick and easy. For this example, though, let's keep this really simple. We'll add in a new section and container, and inside there, we're just simply going to pop in the posts element. And there we go. We've added in our posts now. So we've created the content in this example for our archive page. The content isn't particularly important right now. So what we need to do is tell it where and when this particular template is going to be used. Now to do that, we come up to the settings option, choose the option for template settings, and inside there we've got conditions and we've got populate content. Let's focus on the conditions because that's probably more important at this point in time. If we open this up, this allows us to set the condition or conditions for where and when this is going to be used as part of our overall site. So if we add a condition, you'll see the first thing we've got to do is select the starting point for our condition. In other words, what do we want to check against? So open this up. We've got entire website, front page, post type, and so on. So if you are creating a header or a footer, chances are you're going to want to have that on the entire website. So you can simply choose that option and you'll see that's basically all there is. We also have the exclude option. And what this allows us to do is choose what we want in this condition, this first part, and then exclude it. So let's say we'll create two conditions. We'll say we want this on the entire site. We'll add another condition in and we'll say we want to exclude this from our error page, for example. We've now set up two conditions. Use it on the entire site except for the error page. I hope you get the idea. So you can create templates or template parts and you can use them in various different ways, including them, excluding them, and so on. Let's get rid of this exclusion. Just click delete and confirm it, then open this up. Okay, so we've seen a really basic example. Now let's change this to something a little bit more useful. We may say we want this to be used on a very specific page. We could choose individual, and then we can choose what page we want to include it on. So let's say we wanted to use this design on our home page. Cool. Now this would be used on our home page and anywhere else would be ignored. It wouldn't be used at all. We'd have different templates used in various different parts and have different designs. This is where understanding templates and understanding conditions opens up a ton of possibilities. Let's talk about the apply to child pages. If you're using a hierarchy when you create your content structure, so for example, you may have roles, and inside there you may have PR, HR, and so on, and then inside those you have other sections, well, you could choose this to apply this same template to all of those pages that are child pages underneath that main page you've selected from here, from this individual. In this example, it makes no sense, but we can use it if we wanted to. Okay, so we've seen how you can set up conditions. We'll come back to these a little later on and take a look at how we can get a little bit more granular with these conditions and controls and so on to work in various different ways with terms and categories and those kinds of good things. Now, if you're finding value in this video and you'd like to be notified when new content just like this is added to the channel, why not hit that subscribe button and the bell icon down below, and then you'll be notified when I add new content. Anyway, now we talked about that, let's get on with the video. So that's probably the main way you'll create templates when you're working with building sites. But what if you want to design a section and then think, actually, that'd be useful. I want to use that in other places, so I'd like that to be a template. Do you have to then go and create that from scratch again? No, you don't. The easiest way to do it is simply come down. We'll take this get notified section as an example. We'll click on this because this is our call to action. So that is now selected. All we need to do is right click and choose the option to save as template. We can choose that from the list, and now we can fill out some basic information. First of all, where do we want to place this? The source. My templates is what we have on this local copy. You can set this up to go into community templates, and like I say, if you want to set things up for sharing, you can choose accordingly. For this example, my templates is fine. You've then got import images and replace content. So what you can do is you can have this import the image or images that are part of your template, especially if you're sharing this, or if you don't want to, you could disable it. The same thing goes for the content, so you just end up with like blank placeholder information. You've got a couple of buttons then which allows us to just view things. We'll come back to those in a moment. So now we want to choose our template. So we'll call this CTA block. Template type. This is going to be a section. So you can see the same options are inside here that we saw when we create the template go into Bricks itself. You could work in the same way if you want to and organize things from this side as well. For this example, we'll say a section. Is it going into a template bundle? Well, we say it's going to default templates. Are there any tags? I haven't applied any, but that's fine. We could say we wanted to add one in here. We could do that. And we say save template. So now we've created a new template that gets added into the rest of our templates. And we get a little preview of what that looks like. And you can see we get previews of all these. And if we hover over, it tells us what type of template it is. An archive in this example, content template, section template, section. You kind of get the idea. Now to go back to these options we can see at the top. At the moment, we're kind of viewing a thumbnail view, but we can, if we want to, just go to grid view, which will then show us, in this example, the different sections. Let's go back to our grid view, and we can see there's all our different templates. Now, you'll also notice we get these little options underneath. We can edit this, we can insert it, we can export it, we can delete it, or we can preview it to see what it's going to look like. So we click on preview, you can see that's what it would look like on the page. So this allows us to organize things, add new content in, all those kinds of good things, which is quite useful. Now let's just say we're happy, we'll close this down. Now if you go back to a different page, one of our templates, for example. So we go back to the one we just created. What we'll do is we'll just click in the side and we're going to come up to our templates, click, same dialog box opens up. We'll say now let's add this in. So we'll just say insert. And now we've inserted that into our design and our template is now part of another template. So we've now just basically inserted one template into another template. We've kind of nested them together. But you can see how much quicker and easier it is now, where if we take a look at this template, we've got the header section, which is available on every page. We've got our custom archive section here. Scroll down, we've got our template then for our get notified subscription block. And right at the bottom, we've got the template for our footer. So we're very quickly being able to create pages, set those templates up, apply the conditions to them, and build things out in a much quicker fashion. So now we've seen how to get started, to set up our templates, to apply conditions and so on. Let's take a look at how we can create more comprehensive conditions. So for example, if we go back to what I showed you right back at the beginning of the video, we've got a custom post template for our video, which has a slightly different layout to what we have for the normal post, the video instead of the featured image. So how would we go about setting that up when the content is basically the same? So let me just show you how that's done. So this is a post that has a video inserted into it instead of just using the standard featured image. If we take a look at the right-hand side, I've got a tag, which is a standard WordPress tag, nothing custom here at all, called video post. I then have a custom field, which I've used ACF for, but you could use Metabox, Jet Engine, doesn't really matter. And that's just got the video ID in it. So that just allows us to insert the video element and be able to play that as opposed to the image. So there's the only thing we need to do on the post side of things. Just add in a tag and add in this example, the YouTube ID. Now, if we come back to the template, I've copied the original template that shows the standard post with just the featured image. But what I've done is I've edited it slightly to show instead of the featured image, we've got this video container that contains the video, which is then dynamically linked to that ACF field I've just shown you. So that will then pull the video in from YouTube. That's the only difference. But obviously we can't save this as the same template. Well, you could, but you'd have to use different kinds of conditions and it starts to get a bit messy. So what we've done is I've saved this under a different name. And now we're going to come up to the settings section and come into our template settings and our conditions. So there's no condition applied to this right now. We're going to say add a condition, and like we've seen previously, we can choose what we want to check against. In this example, we're going to use terms. So then we can choose the term. Now the term could be a tag, it could be a custom taxonomy, it could be all manner of different things. But I wanted to make this set up in such a way that it's very, very easy. You just choose the tag that you want to apply, that will then trigger the template, and then the video will be replaced by that little bit of code. So all we need to do is choose the term that we want to use for this particular template. Choose the list, and we're going to just type in video, and you'll see there's our video post. That tag I've just shown you tells us it's a tag. We can choose it from the options, and now this is saying check the terms. If the terms have a video post as a tag, use this template instead of the original standard default template that has the featured image here and not the video. So now if we hit save, we've now created that particular condition. So let's go and test it out. So we click on our video post. You can see this now shows the video like we saw before. If we come back out of this, go back into one of the other ones, you see this is using the standard template. Let's just check that's working the way we expect it to. Let's come into our post and let's remove that tag. Click Save. So now we've removed the tag, so it should fall back to the standard template with the featured image and ignore the video completely. So again, let's come back in. There's our custom video post. Now with the tag removed, and now we just show the featured image. Paul C from the future here, just putting this in because I forgot to include this in the video, this little section. I know I'll be asked about it. And that is, why don't my templates look the same as yours? Why do my template viewer look different? Why don't I have thumbnails? How come yours are scrollable? All these kinds of things. It all comes into the settings you set up as part of Bricks. So you go into the settings section in Bricks, you'll see you've got a templates tab. Inside there's some options you may need to enable that are not enabled by default. And you can customize certain things and choose what you want. So first of all, you can see template screenshots. This is where we can see these screenshots inside the actual template area itself, which obviously means it's a lot easier to tell what any particular template is all about. So all you need to do is click to enable that. You won't see the delete screenshots, but if you do, you can delete that. You can have a fresh version. Then you've got the template manager thumbnail height. So again, if we come back in, you'll see this is what we can see here. And as we hover over, this is where we get the scroll effect to show the entire template. So again, it's nice if you've got a lot of templates or big templates to be able to just quickly enable this and then see it at a glance and hover over and scroll to see exactly what the entire template looks like. Then you've got the template thumbnail column. That simply refers to this column you can see inside the normal templates listing. So again, if you come into Bricks and you go into templates, this is the view that you're going to see. And as you can see, this just gives us that extra column. So you can at a glance see what these are like. And again, you see you've got the scroll effect when you hover over to kind of get an idea. So you can control the size of that should you want to. Then you've got a couple of other options. So things like disable default templates. So if no template conditions are set in Bricks, show published templates, header, footer, etc. on the front end of your site. Again, it's up to you whether you want to enable this. I tend to leave this as it is. The same for public templates. I don't want to share my templates with anybody. But if you did, you could make them public and then you can make them shareable. And then you can control the My Template access. So you can choose who and what can access this. So you may want to put URLs inside here. And you can also enable password protection. So if you want to share these across your sort of entire company or maybe share with clients, you get the idea, you could do that and control who can access it and what type of access they've got. So you can enable and disable various different things there. Then you've got your remote templates, so you can say you load templates from another Bricks installation you have access to in your template library. So what you could do here is you could have one centralized repository where you put all of your templates, organize them how you see fit. And if you wanted to, you could actually set this up as a remote template storage location and just log in there based upon the name, URL, and password and so on. And you can set up multiple ones inside here. And this is also where you can set up, for example, if you use things like Bricks Maven, which is a template set, a good template set, which integrates directly into the template viewer as part of Bricks. This is where you pop in the information. And you can now, since one of the recent versions of Bricks, have multiple different remote template locations, which is great. And you can switch between them. And also, if you've got any outdated or old templates, you've got the convert template option here. And this will convert things from the old way of working with blocks and divs and so on to the new way of working with sections and containers and all those kinds of good things. So with a little bit of creativity and understanding how templates and conditions work together, you can create really powerful dynamic website designs using some very simplistic tools. Stacking conditions if you want to, using negative conditions to show and hide things based upon what you want to do. Now, there's various different ways you could have tackled this same issue. I just think this is probably one of the most elegant ways of doing it, which allows you to get creative. And obviously, I've used a very simple example of the design of the template, but you could go wild on this and do anything you want. And then when the tag is being used, or custom post type or taxonomy, whatever it is, those templates can be wildly different, all using the same editor, in this case Gutenberg, to create the actual physical content. Hopefully you can see the benefits of working in this way. Now, if you want to learn more about getting started with the foundations of working with Bricks, check out this playlist next. There's videos being added regularly to get you up to speed on how to work with Bricks Builder. All applicable links are in the description. My name is Paul C. This is WPTuts, and until next time, take care.